again, and welcome part 2 Cannabiz Conversation Podcast with the wonderful Ashley Manning. Folks, if you missed part 1, hit the pause button, go back, watch part 1. Okay, I'm just when you got people laughing and having fun, you know the passion is there. That's what's happening in part 1. It's going to be happening here too. But so we're starting off part 2 with this idea. It's all about genetics today, people. It's all I hear about. Where do I get my seeds? How do I buy them? Where do I go? Where do I start? Colorado Seed Inc. is where you start. It is an unbelievable team of people who, as we've been talking about on the show, they use science, people. They use data to make sure that what you're using as a grower, whether it's home or at the scale, these guys got it figured out. Head over to coloradoseedinc.com. Start shopping genetics today. Ashley, we are here to talk about the CRC, which I think is, I've been talking to you about 35 minutes. I'm excited. I don't work there, but I feel like I could, and that's exciting to me because I'm unemployable, Ashley. I've worked for myself for 12 years. I couldn't possibly have anyone tell me when to be to work, when to wake up, when to go to meetings. But I'm getting the feeling with the CRC, maybe I could. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about the studies at the CRC? Because I'm really excited to hear about them.
Yeah, thanks. One of our biggest studies that we're working on right now, I can only release a little bit of the information. We are submitting it for peer
review. Good. I love
peer review publication.
We're getting hot information off the press, not even available to the public. Share what you can, but don't get anyone in trouble. That's not what this show's about. We don't need anybody like that.
So I'll just give an overview of our study, The Science of Smokability. You may have heard of it, called SOS, but it's a 2-year series of scientific experiments that focuses on cultivation and processing metrics that produce the most pleasant and most desirable smoking experience based on consumers' feedback. Cannabis has always been cultivated to maximize yield and potency, and there's no study out there that's ever evaluated how the cultivation practices or the post-harvest processing, those who don't know, that's the drying and curing process, impacts the smokability of the final product. Nobody has ever done that. So until now. So that is a little overview of the study and how this can help. This can help increase the return, the ROI by investing in sponsorship. I'm not going to throw out a sponsor pitch here. This is more for education, but that impact will translate into the industry becoming more profitable because more consumers are going to have more desirable products, but also we're going to help to reduce those inputs. So you're not wasting inputs on something that may or may not be needed. We're going to take these plants to the extreme with the inputs and see how far we can take them to the point of where we can kill them and be able to report back to the growers and the industry what our findings are. The 2-year study there's different phases of the study. Phase 1 was on water activity. Phase 2 is on nutrients and flushing. Phase 3 is on nitrosamines, toxicants, and then the final phases will be determined based on the results we get from these initial 3 stages. So these phases, this whole entire study is going to take potentially 2 to 3 years. At the 3rd year, we'll publish a book that's going to be out there that will be accessible to everybody, but can't release any of that information or the book until we've submitted each phase for peer review for publication. When the publication gets out, then we can start putting the study out there. So how the study was working is we are cultivating the plant with different types of inputs or post-harvest process. We have then partnered with the Network of Applied Pharmacognosy, who is more on the consumer focus. They have Dr. Miyabi Shields, Dr. Riley Kirk, who are also influencers and doctors in the space. They're pharmacologists and a natural products chemist. And they're doing the consumer side. So we're sending out these pre-rolls. They are CBD pre-rolls based on our inputs. The consumers are getting a survey. That survey was created by the team at the Ganjiers. So that way we know what information we should be collecting. We don't know what we should be collecting. They've created this, so why not already use it? They're creating the scoring of what is the most desirable smoke. There's about 15 different metrics for them to put in. We evaluate that data and say, well, product number one, nobody liked it. And we take those measurements and see which product produced the most desirable smoke. And then we go back to the drawing board and we try to fine tune that to make it even better and continue to follow this process till we're happy with the results, and that we've been able to reduce inputs, still produce a quality product. So we're integrating the industry as well as the consumers. We're not traditional research. We don't need an IRB for this. We don't have any federal funding for it. This is non-academic research. We feel that since there is very limited funding out there for cannabis research, the only way to go about it would be through sponsors, donations, people who want to support this research. We don't need to go through all the hoops that are required to get a grant and everything that's needed for other traditional research. We can go around it and still complete it and get the information to the growers as well as the consumers.
I love that. Like I said in part one, I'm not a bureaucracy guy. So, it sounds like here we're on the same page. We're straight ahead. We know we need money. We got to find money because I don't want to deal with red tape. Red tape, yeah, I can get money, but there's red tape. So I love that. I do love to hear that because it's now, right? So now I'm like, okay, so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm, like I said, I'm kind of a capitalist hippie. So how can I figure out how to help people with that? So more conversation hopefully to be had there. Maya and the chemical stuff, that stuff is just holy cow. What they're doing on the consumer side and the neurodivergent, I believe, is the terminology. I would love to have someone like that on my show, but frankly, scares the shit out of me because they're just so smart and they're so like they're just, here's the hippie Grateful Dead kid sitting here, like talking with a scientist seems, maybe not where but it'd be awesome. It'd be so cool because I think people need to hear that. They need to see what she's doing. They need to have that fun. They need to know the consumer aspect. When you talk about smokability, look, I know if my joint was cured crappily. Okay, I've been doing it a long time. I know it's obvious if the flower smokes harsh. It's there, right? Like we know. Frankly, actually, it's always been my issue with hemp in general, in the CBD THC only, however we want to use this phrasing. But I've had a bunch of people send me hemp pre-rolls, and I'm like, it hits differently. It's a different experience. But now I'm thinking, to your point, like, well, who the hell was looking and who the hell knows what you were actually having? And that's the kind of shit that's kind of scary, in general, as a consumer, when you look at an edible container, right? We did this the other day. We were all out hanging out, and I said, yeah, just flip over your gummies here. What does it say on the back? What's the accuracy of what you just took a 20 milligram? What's the accuracy? Anywhere from 80 to 120%. Oh, okay. So you may have eaten 100. You may have eaten 160. Are you prepared for what's about to take place here? And he's like, no. Well, then what were you doing? Like, why did you do this, right? So your consumer position and working with the consumer on the smokability of this, when you guys are told, like when you thought about having the consumer be the judge, does the industry have some weird pushback on that, Ashley? Because it just feels like industries at a whole would be like, well, what the hell does the consumer? I just don't feel like we value the consumer's voice enough in a space where the only person you sell to is the consumer for the most part. Like, you guys aren't wholesaling ounces to the guy down the road to sell it. You got to sell this shit on your own. So help me understand, Ashley.
Yeah, there is a little bit of industry slack. You'll see it in the comments and social media a little bit, but I don't see anybody else doing this research. And when we see those types of comments from the industry, we go back to, not only are we doing this for the industry and the consumers, we're, also we're working with ASTM on writing a standard based on our results of each of these phases, and ASTM will drive this to the regulators. And so we're also helping to advance the industry into where it needs to be. So those people who are giving the flack in the comments, we go back to our mission is driving this industry forward, and we don't really care what you have to say. We're going to keep doing what we're doing.
It's kind of how we know
Because
we're doing it right, as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, I think if people are questioning what you're doing, it's because there's a fear involved with what they do. There's a lot of big time personalities in the right now. The safest space for cannabis to me is definitely LinkedIn. And so that's where I live. That's where I spend my time. And that's where I see these conversations from coast to coast. There are humongous names, humongous dispensary owners. Everyone's talking about testing, Ashley. Okay. It's all test this, test that. I don't need to pay for this. Wait, I should have a level 4 test that's better than every other test. And all these ideas of testing. We're still not like putting on the packaging. Do you know what I mean? Like the consumer, all the things everyone's bitching about still isn't making its way to like some sort of consumer safety discussion where consumers would know what to look for. So your research seems to bridge that gap. Am I missing something?
No, it is. It's because it's education too, as we're reaching out to the consumers about, one, we're saying, hey, we need participants in this study. They're inquiring now, they're following along to our educational content that we're putting out there, which is Dr. Shields and Dr. Kirk's forte is consumer education through social media, non-traditional ways to educate. And so it's translating to them because they're reaching out, asking questions. Hey, I got my pre-rolls. What am I supposed to be doing with them? What am I supposed to be tasting? They're asking questions, and what's the impact of this research? Where is it going after? They're asking questions, so they're engaged. Yeah, it's a small pool of 200 people that we choose, to keep funding costs down between each phase, but they're inquiring and they're reaching out, and they're able now to start educating other people because they participated in the study. And we've seen that translation. Hey, I'm part of this study. You should be part of this study as well. I learned this about cannabis just through being involved.
I love it. It's the best way to share, right? I always joke there's nothing worse than the recently converted. And so when just right. So when that happens, when someone finds it, they're like, oh my God, tell everyone. I'm an evangelist by desire. If I love something, everyone's going to know about it. Everyone's going to have to hear about why I think it's so cool and why I think you should do it. And, the latest thing in my life is a dog chiropractor. Okay, Ashley? All right. My buddies are like, you have too much money, not any kids. You are a dick. Why are you telling us about? I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I got an old pup. I adopted her old. She's not miserable. Now her life's changed. You know what I'm saying? So like through science, through information, I decided to not let the idea that my dog chiropractor sounded weird to say out loud. But hey, guess what? Better quality of life, better opportunities. That's what I'm in this for. I'm in this to improve the surroundings. With the work the CRC does, what's the next sort of, and I hate to think ahead, right, when you're still in the middle of a 2 or 3 year research, but I know you are, and I know your team is. So what is the next part? What does the expansion of the CRC look like from here moving forward?
Yeah, the great question. We have expanded our physical facility, research facility here in South Carolina by 2,000 square feet. We have 19 dedicated R&D chambers. We'll also be continuing to do on-site research at growers' facilities. And that's a next step. The amount of research we're going to be able to conduct by having these individual chambers, individual experiments going, that's our next step. We'll be able to continuously bring the research to the industry and also to the consumers too. We're going to keep doing consumer studies over the course of our lifetime, and it's just up from here. It starts with having a facility to conduct the research.
I do like the facility. I think, and I watch a lot, but I'm pretty sure that this is the grower tents that a company donated or whatever, like partnered with that. A name drop, please, because as a kid of Prohibition State, I may be in tune to one. I'm not sure. All right. But I might be. Can you name drop who that was? Is that cool?
Yeah, that was Gorilla Tents. Huge shout out. What we've done with our expansion, we're very minimally funded. There's not much out there for us. We have our CRC memberships, but that's something that we have developed partnerships within the industry to help make our space the grow space we need it to be. So they donated 11 of their chambers. So we've done a 2,000 square foot build out. Those chambers will be inside the grow. We also got Willow Air. They donated one of their newest Willow Air machines. So each room will have, it helps remove the aspergillus out of the air and microbials. We also got donations from Saloon Lighting, which is AI powered lighting, which dynamic lights that mimic the sun, which is going to be amazing because we'll be able to mimic some outdoor growing indoors and be able to fine tune what that looks like. A lot of our work and expansion has been through partnerships, which shows how much the industry believes in the research. Even though these are, not necessarily monetary contributions, they help take that monetary expense off of our table that we have to put out there.
Yeah, I think in partnership, right, it's not about necessarily paying you as it is just sending you what you need to do your job. And I think the two really, sort of come together. And we have sponsors. This is our second season. We have sponsors for the show. In no way does it cover costs. What it does, it allows us to give opportunity to people to work with us on these projects and sort of afford to bring people in who have talent in the space of social media or whatever. Because I'm just a mouthpiece, people, for everyone who wonders this. On this show, Sean just gets to talk. He doesn't do nothing else. Okay. I got a killer team of people led by Amber Knoll, who does all of our posting, all of our social media. She's killer at it. But the point is, without sponsors, I couldn't even go down that road because back to the capitalist pig in me. But this is not a revenue generating idea. This is simply a passion project that I spend 10 to 12 hours every quarter on to build out and have fun with. But the point for me now, and this is why I'm looking forward to more conversations, Ashley, is I really want to key on the consumer. I've done a season and a half, almost 2 seasons of industry-based discussions, which are cool, which I love because I'm a business guy. It's super cool. But I want to find a way to get into the consumer space. I want to find a way for consumers to be educated, to hear about your content, because at the end of the day, we don't have enough educational content in this space. Okay. We have a lot of humble bragging in the space. We have a lot of bitching and complaining in the space. We have a lot of people who, my biggest problem is if you don't have a fix or a recommendation, I just keep your bitching for Instagram or Facebook. Like, I don't want to hear it on LinkedIn because I want solutions. I want to know if something's broken, what you propose to do to fix it. This is something I think the industry deals with at the CRC level. When you guys go to sort of build on your next steps, what is the way that you will reach the consumer? What is it that you're trying to, I guess my question is actually, how can the consumer get involved? How can anyone get involved with pushing the CRC message forward?
Thanks. Yeah. The next steps were going to be developing master classes one of our key goals is to make the CRC research open source. Right now, it's all behind a paywall, which only members get access to. We're seeking funding to be able to make our research open source, which then will create a master class, which will be the science of, I don't want to release too much information. We'll just say different topics that will be, everything we do will be open source at that point. Okay. So we are seeking that particular partners. We've had some really good calls so far, and we hope to push that forward. But if people want to get involved in the meantime, we encourage them to become members by joining the CRC. We have student memberships, individual memberships, small business, large business. We also have larger tier sponsorships where they would sponsor a smaller business as well as get their own. So if you want to show support to a smaller business, but also show your support for research, that larger tier would be ideal. You can visit cannabisrc.org and shoot the contact information, and we'll get your information over and make sure you get everything you need, what the member benefits get you, and how you can get involved. Because we have years of content, educational, we have SOPs, we have our research. We do want this to be open source, but that's our value proposition right now in order to get the funding we need, is to have it behind a paywall.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's a tough discussion to have, you know what I mean? I think it's what people brought to me when I was like, all right, well, we're going to do a podcast. So we need to monetize it to pay someone. What we're going to do. And people are like, go behind a paywall. And I'm like, dude, I'm not that interesting. I'm just not. Like, I'm going to have on great people who are super interesting, but it's just not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same reason I don't have an OnlyFans page, Ashley. Okay. It's like, I'm just not that interested. Right. It's just that simple. And so with it, though, people and consumers we care. I care. I want to know more about the education. You say you have years of educational content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Built a library of things that can be put out. And now it makes a little bit more sense why I haven't seen it with my own eyes, because it lives behind a paywall as it probably should. And I think the other advantage to you guys is when you can get that funding, you can start to use it as like a social media growth component. Whereas now you're handcuffed. You can't, because that's not right? Like for the people who get follows on Instagram or pay the extra, like if they were putting all that on Instagram, why would you pay extra? So
Exactly.
I totally respect the model, especially in a space where funding isn't around the corner. Grants are as described. We've been through that life. So you have to find ways. You have to find different opportunities that exist in it. So people, again, that's cannabisrc.org. We got that right, Ashley?
Correct.
Cannabisrc.org. Go there. Look out for what's happening there. I think it's a very important thing that we do together, collectively as people, because if we don't get involved in the research, we have no leg to stand on when the research happens and you still don't feel a part of it. Well, you had a chance, right? And you need to get involved. And shameless plug, people, same thing about voting right now, okay? We're close. We're like a month away when this thing goes live. Get registered to vote. Get out and vote. For goodness sakes, be involved. Same thing here with the cannabisrc.org. Ashley, as we wrap this up, I like to ask everyone kind of a fun, pointed question at the end. So here it is. Ashley's favorite way to consume right now.
Edibles.
Edibles.
Yeah.
Has that changed for you, or is this a lifelong affliction?
This has been since being a cannabis consumer. So
okay.
I've been 22. Edibles. I like smoking socially. For me, smoking a joint is like being with friends having a drink. So when I'm trying to relax on a Friday, I want to smoke a joint. Relax at the end of the day, just like someone would have a cocktail, I smoke a joint.
Yeah.
But edibles are my favorite way.
Your favorite way is the edibles. See, I've never been able to I've just never been able to do it. And I think it's interesting though that we bring this up this way, because I do think this is going to sound weird from a non-parent guy, but I think it has to do with upbringing, right? So like you got here at 22, which, I mean, that's a great, I think that's when I was my wife's drug dealer before I was her boyfriend. But when I was that, I think she was like 22 when she found it. And she was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But I had grown up on it, right? So, and I had grown up on flour. You weren't, you know what I mean? Like you might've gotten a weird gooey ass Rice Krispie treat at a Grateful Dead show, but like that was it. Like it wasn't anything you were expecting. Edibles today. And so I'm a flour kid, period. Like I can't eat it. But this gummy thing, all right, this gummy bedtime craze thing that I find myself under, when I talk all day, because I do that for a living, end of the day, you don't really feel like putting the old smoke down the lungs, pop a 25, go to bed, I mean, I'm hip. I like it. It's weird for me as a microdoser. It used to be. And that was an experience that was totally mind-opening daily. And I find the edible piece to be quite interesting. And obviously it's the easiest way to a consumer, right, Ashley, is to explain how this is going to work.
Absolutely.
Ashley,
I'd love to throw this out there too.
Yeah,
If anyone in the industry is looking to catch us, we are going to be collecting data on the Science of Smokability study. We're going to be at the Boston Freedom Rally this weekend, collecting data in their consumption space. We're going to be at NECAN Syracuse with the Good Life Gang collecting smoke data, as well as at MJ Biz with the Good Life Gang at Planet 13 collecting data at their consumption lounge. We are currently added a phase called phase 1.5 where we're collecting puff topography. No one in the history of research, cannabis research, no one has ever collected the actual human puff topography. And why that's impactful is because there's a lot of smoke studies going on. How are we doing a smoke study that's not actually replicating how a human smokes? So it takes time. This is going to take time for us to collect the human puff topography because it's about 20 minutes per person, clean the machine, next person. So we're trying these series of events, and that's when we'll be going into phase 2 of nutrients and flushing. of SOS, and then we'll be able to do the analytical data properly with this smoke puff topography that we have. And we'll be able to share that puff topography with everybody. There will be an actual method called the SOS method that we are going to share out to everybody. Everybody will be able to use it who's doing smoke studies. So this is going to be a worldwide game changer, this study overall.
This sounds awesome. And getting out to the people with the product to be in places is super cool. As someone in the space who's, now we're getting like recruited to these events to be like press and media. It was really cool. Unfortunately, I'm not going to any of those, but I tell people, get out and support the shows, get out and support the people, and network and learn about what you don't know. That is the coolest part of this show for me, is to have this be somewhere, a network. I never met Ashley before today. But now that I have, she's probably going to be getting emails from me. And I'm going to probably have questions about other things. And she's going to get annoyed probably and like check with Ashley in 6 months from now and see if she blocked me, because I have so many questions. I'm so inquisitive and I love to help. So Ashley, thank you so much for your time. You have been an incredible, incredible guest today. And the research and the work you guys are doing is unbelievable and we need to see more of it. People need to get behind it. Remember, cannabisrc.org is how you, the individual at home or listening to this on your iPhone, can get involved. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean.
You have been wonderful. As always, remember, we thank our sponsors, Colorado Seed Inc. If you haven't checked them out, head over to coloradoseedinc.com. Home grower, cultivator at scale, makes no difference to them. They address the first step in the process, which is the seed. It is the genetics. They're one of the best that I've ever met. I think you'll find the same. coloradoseedinc.com, the place to go. And thank you, everyone, for joining the show again this week. Remember, the goal of the show, remove the stigma, uplift the plant to its rightful place. Thank you all so much, and have yourselves a wonderful week.